the monster who feared her own reflection. In a silent corner of the galaxy where forgotten stars drifted like dying embers, a creature lived who the universe knew only as Varela. She was feared across systems, whispered about in dark halls, and hunted by powerful empires who wanted her erased from existence. Her body was shaped from shadows and ancient scars, her claws sharp enough to cut through armored ships, and her eyes glowed like two dying suns. But underneath all that power, Varela carried a deep, painful belief. The belief that she was a monster who did not deserve kindness, hope, or love. For centuries, she lived alone among broken moons and hollow planets, watching the galaxy from a distance, like a ghost haunting the universe. Every species she met attacked her, ran from her, or tried to imprison her. And every time they did, her heart grew colder, her trust faded, and her soul dimmed a little more. Monsters don't get loved, she told herself again and again. And for the longest time, she believed it. But her destiny began to shift the day she met a human named Elias Carter. The Hook, a human who didn't run. The first time Varela saw Elias, he stood on a storm-ridden moon, lightning splitting the sky around him like glowing cracks in space. His exosuit was damaged, smoke rising from one shoulder, but still he stood tall, scanning the area with calm, steady breaths. He was there because of a mysterious distress signal, a signal every other species called a trap or a trick. Humans, however, were known for doing strange things, daring things, and sometimes foolish things. So, Elias came anyway, even when his team warned him not to. When Varela stepped from the shadows, her presence shook the ground. Plasma storms around them flexed like wild beasts, reacting to her energy. Any normal soldier would have screamed, drawn a weapon, or begged their gods for mercy. But Elias simply froze for a moment, then looked at her with wide, curious eyes. Not fear, not hate, just wonder. Varela expected him to run, but he didn't. He expected her to attack, but she didn't. Instead, they stared at each other through the howling storm, the galaxy holding its breath between them. "You are the one who sent the signal?" Elias asked. His voice was steady, not shaking, not afraid. Varela tilted her head, confused by his reaction. "Yes," she echoed, her voice low and echoing like distant thunder. "You are not afraid of me." It wasn't a question. It was disbelief. Elias gave a small shrug. "I mean, should I be?" he said, trying to hide a small smile. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever looked at her like she was more than a nightmare in the dark. She took a step back, her massive claws scraping against the ground. Her shadows flickered, forming shaky shapes around her. "You do not see me as a monster?" she asked, her voice carrying a crack she didn't expect. Elias crossed his arms, observing her gently. "I see someone who looks tired, not a monster." The words hit her harder than any plasma cannon ever had. For the first time in centuries, she felt something warm in her chest, something she almost forgot existed. "Do I look too monstrous to deserve kindness, hope, or love?" It was a painful question, one she had buried deep inside herself for ages. Elias looked at her with a soft, human sadness. "Who told you that?" he asked. "The galaxy. Everyone." Her eyes dropped toward the cracked ground. "Everything I touch falls apart." Elias slowly walked toward her, careful but brave. Humans were fragile. She could crush him without trying. Yet he came closer as if she was not a threat. "You don't scare me," he said gently. "And you don't look monstrous to me." She stared at him, shocked. "How can a human believe that?" she whispered. Elias chuckled softly. "Humans don't judge by appearance. We judge by choices." The moment that changed everything. Lightning roared above them, shaking the air, but neither moved. There, on a dead moon beneath a dying sky, Varela felt something break inside her, a wall she didn't know she had. Elias did something unexpected, something no living creature in the galaxy had ever dared. He reached out and placed his hand on her claw. A human hand on a monster's hand. Warmth touching shadow. Softness touching power. Her heart thumped once, hard and loud, like a star waking from sleep. "You asked if you are too monstrous to be loved," Elias said quietly. "Humanity has one answer." Varela looked at him, trembling. "And what is that?" she asked. Elias smiled, a real, bright human smile that carried bravery, hope, and something deeper. Never. In that moment, an ancient fear inside her broke apart. For the first time, she wasn't a monster. She wasn't a weapon. She wasn't a curse. She was someone who could be seen, understood, accepted. Ending hook for part 2. But the galaxy was not ready for this connection. Empires felt a disturbance. Old enemies awakened. Hunters moved through the dark. Something terrible was coming for them both. Something that believed monsters should never be loved. And Elias was only human.
The hunter who hated love. The wind on the dying moon began to shift, carrying a low vibration that made the cracked ground tremble. Varela felt it first, a deep pulse through the shadows in her skin, a warning she had learned to recognize across centuries. Something ancient was coming, something that knew her, something that hated her. Varela slowly pulled her claw away from Elias's hand, her glowing eyes scanning the storm-filled horizon. Elias watched her body stiffen, her shadows tightening around her like armor. "What's wrong?" he asked. His voice held concern, not fear. Varela didn't answer at first, her senses stretching across the moon's surface like dark waves. "The galaxy reacts to choices," she finally whispered, "and someone felt mine." Elias frowned. Someone? Who exactly? Varela's shadows shook. "A hunter," she whispered, "one who believes monsters should remain alone." Elias's expression hardened. "Is it coming for you?" Varela's next words chilled the storm itself. "No," she said slowly. "It is coming for you." The shadow that hated hope. Far above the moon, hidden in the debris of a dead ship graveyard, a creature slid through the darkness with silent, fluid grace. Its name was whispered in only one place, the ancient ruins where forgotten monsters slept. Serac. It was once a guardian of Varela's kind, a creature forged to destroy anything that broke the old rules. And the greatest rule was simple. Monsters must not love. Monsters must not be loved. Serac's form twisted like liquid metal mixed with bone, its red eyes glowing with cold rage as it locked onto Varela's energy. "So the Cursed One has touched a human," Serac hissed, its voice echoing across empty space. "Then the human must die." With a sound like collapsing stone, it shot toward the moon, leaving a trail of red energy behind it. Elias doesn't run. Back on the surface, Elias adjusted his cracked helmet, trying to read Varela's expression. "So this thing, Serac, wants to kill me because you and I talked?" Varela looked away, shame flickering through her shadows. "Because I let myself feel something," she admitted. "And because you answered." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, that seems unfair," he muttered. His tone was so casual that Varela stared at him again, shocked. "You are not afraid?" she asked. Elias shrugged. "I should be, but fear doesn't get humans anywhere." She almost smiled. Almost. No one had ever spoken to danger like it was an annoying fly. Humans were strange, and somehow that made them stronger. Varela lowered her massive head toward him, her shadows fluttering nervously. "Elias," she said gently, "if Serac reaches you, it will not be a battle, it will be execution." "Then we don't let it reach me," Elias said confidently. "And we don't let it touch you either." Her heart thumped again. Twice in one day. She didn't know if she could handle that. The ground cracks, he arrives. A deafening roar ripped across the sky. Red lightning tore open the clouds as Serac slammed into the surface of the moon, creating a crater of smoking glass. Elias stumbled back from the shockwave, but Varela placed one claw in front of him, shielding him from the blast. From the crater, Serac rose, its body shifting like shattered mirrors melting into shape. Its red eyes locked onto Varela first, then onto Elias. So the Cursed One has touched a human. Then the human must die. Elias's expression hardened. "Is it coming for you?" Varela's next words chilled the storm itself. "No, it is coming for you." Varela fights her past. Varela moved in front of Elias, her entire body crackling with dark energy. "Serac," she said, her voice heavy with old memories, "you do not decide my fate anymore." Serac hissed, "I was created to protect our kind from weakness, and you are weakness." Varela's shadows curled. "And he is strength," she said, nodding at Elias. Serac lunged forward, a streak of red and black tearing across the ground. Varela met him head-on, claws clashing with Serac's bone blades. The impact produced a shock that shook the moon. Elias was thrown back, landing hard on the cracked ground. He gasped, pushing himself up in time to see Varela and Serac tearing through the burning landscape like two storms colliding. Her shadows struck like whips of darkness. Serac countered with blades of molten bone. Every hit echoed with centuries of pain, punishment, and regret. Elias watched with wide eyes. He knew he couldn't fight something like Serac, but he also knew Varela was losing strength. Serac was not just a hunter. He was her past, her fear, her chains. And she could not fight fear alone. A human's choice. Elias stood, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He grabbed his broken exosuit staff and charged toward the fight. Varela's eyes widened as she saw him running. "Serac," she roared, "leave him!" But Serac turned, sensing the human's movement. With a snarl, it aimed a killing strike at Elias, one that would end everything, one that Varela could not block in time. She screamed, shadows exploding outward, but the blow was already falling. The galaxy froze, and part 2 ends here.
He human who changed destiny. The killing strike came fast, faster than any human could dodge. Serac's blade arm cut through the burning air like a streak of red lightning, aiming straight for Elias's chest. Varela's scream tore across the moon, shaking the cracked surface beneath her feet. "No!" Shadows exploded from her body, rushing toward Elias like a tidal wave. But Serac's blade was already descending, already inches from Elias's heart. Elias didn't run, didn't hide, didn't look away. He simply lifted his broken metal staff in front of him and whispered, "Varela, trust yourself." The blade struck, and the universe blinked. Instead of slicing through flesh, Serac's attack slammed into a massive shield of shadow and light that erupted around Elias. A barrier unlike anything Varela had ever created. A barrier powered not by fear, but by her connection to him. Serac recoiled, snarling, its blade scraping against the glowing shield. What is this?" it hissed. "This is not your power." Varela stared with wide, glowing eyes. "It is not mine," she breathed. "It is ours." Elias looked at her through the shimmering shield. "You protected me," he said softly. "I just gave that protection a place to stand." Her heart thumped again, louder than the storms around them. The human who refused to die. Sarek circled them like a predator trapped in confusion, its eyes narrowing with disbelief. Humans cannot channel monster energy. They are weak, fragile things. Elias stepped forward, the shadow light shield pulsing around him like a living star. "Weak?" he repeated with a raised brow. "Humans survive everything." Sarek's face twisted. "You should not exist," it spat. "You break rules even the universe created." Elias gave a short, amused laugh. "Yeah, humans do that a lot." The shield around him flickered, then stabilized. Varela felt the connection between them like a heartbeat shared, her shadows woven with his courage, her fear balanced by his hope, her ancient power strengthened by his human heart. It was impossible. It was unbelievable. It was terrifyingly beautiful. Varela's pain awakened something new. Sarek lunged again, its bone blades howling through the air. This time, Varela didn't hold back. Her shadows roared like living storms, spiraling around her body as she threw herself at Sarek with a force that cracked the ground open. Their collision was thunder. Their clash was fire. Sarek's blade carved a long wound across Varela's side, glowing red against her dark form. She gasped, staggering back, her shadows rippling violently. "Varela!" Elias shouted. He ran toward her without thinking, but she lifted her claw to stop him, trembling. "No," she whispered, "I can endure pain, but if Sarek reaches you again—" Elias placed his hand on her claw. "We face it together," he said firmly. "Not alone." A shiver passed through Varela's body. No one had ever said those words to her. No one had ever chosen to stand with her. Not gods, not guardians, not her own kind. Only a human, only Elias. Sarek sees the truth and fears it. Sarek tilted its head, observing them with growing anger. "So, that is it," it whispered coldly. "The Cursed One has found a bond stronger than fear, a bond that changes the rules." Varela bared her claws, shadows swirling violently around her. "You cannot kill what is already reborn," she growled. Sarek sneered. "I was created to stop you from becoming this. You were never meant to feel, never meant to hope, and you were never meant to be loved." Elias stepped forward. "Then your creators were wrong," he said. "Everyone deserves love." Sarek roared, its form shifting into a monstrous shape of blades and burning bones. "If the human refuses to die," it said darkly, "then I will make the monster watch him break." The ground cracked open as Sarek prepared a devastating attack, gathering red energy into a massive blade that glowed like molten death. Varela froze. She knew this attack. She knew what it could do. It was the same strike that once destroyed an entire moon. The same strike that ended her past. The same strike that shaped her prison of loneliness. She trembled, shadows shrinking in fear. For the first time since she met Elias, she felt helpless. A human does the impossible. Elias saw her fear and stepped in front of her. Varela's eyes widened with horror. "Elias, no!" But he didn't stop, didn't hesitate, didn't think about death, only about her. The shield ignited again, brighter than before, pulsing with a mix of human determination and Varela's ancient energy. He planted his feet firmly on the ground as the massive red blade descended. Sarek screamed. "You cannot stop this!" Elias shouted back. "I don't need to stop it. I just need to hold long enough for her to rise."
The impact shook the entire moon. The shield cracked, sparks flying in all directions. Elias gritted his teeth, every muscle in his body screaming in pain. The shield shattered piece by piece. But Elias didn't fall. He stood, even when the universe tried to crush him. He stood because Varela needed him to. He stood because humanity never bows to fear. The blade finally broke apart, exploding into red smoke. Sarek staggered back in disbelief. How? How is a human still alive? It roared. Elias collapsed to one knee, gasping for breath. But he smiled weakly at Varela and whispered, "I told you, humans survive everything." Something inside Varela shattered, not in pain, but in awakening. She felt power rising in her unlike anything she had known. Power born from connection, power born from the one thing she believed she could never have, love. Her shadows surged, turning brilliant silver. Her scars glowed like stars being born. She stood tall, taller than ever, her voice echoing like a cosmic storm. "Sarek," she said calmly, "you tried to take the only light I have ever found, and for that, you face me." Sarek stepped back for the first time. For the first time in its existence, it felt fear.
The monster who became a star. Serac stepped back as Varela rose, her shadows no longer dark and broken, but glowing like silver flames. The moon's cracked surface trembled beneath her feet, reacting to the force awakening inside her. For centuries, she had believed her power was a curse, but now, standing between Elias and Serac, she finally understood something she had never allowed herself to see. Her power was not meant to destroy. It was meant to protect. Her scars glowed brighter, forming constellations across her shadowy skin. The galaxy once told her she was monstrous, but Elias had shown her a truth far greater. A monster was only a monster when it had no one to believe in it. And she had found someone. Serac sees what should not exist. Serac snarled, its molten red eyes burning hotter. "This form, this strength, does not belong to you." Varela stood tall, her voice echoing with a soft cosmic thunder. "It always belonged to me," she said, "but your chains stopped me from reaching it." Serac's body twisted into a sharper, more monstrous shape, blades growing along its spine and arms. "You were made to be alone," Serac hissed. "You were made to bring fear, and you were made to die the moment you forgot your purpose." Varela took one slow step forward, silver shadows trailing behind her like celestial dust. "My purpose has changed," she whispered gently. "You cannot stop what has already begun." Serac roared, "I can stop everything!" The battle begins again, but different. Serac lunged faster than before, its bone blades cutting the air apart, but Varela moved with a grace she never had, her claws shimmering with silver energy. She blocked the attack with ease, creating a wave of light that sent Serac sliding backward across the broken ground. Elias watched from the sidelines, struggling to stand, his ribs aching and his suit flickering with warnings, but his eyes never left her. He had never seen anything so powerful, so terrifying, so beautiful. Varela met Serac blow for blow, her movements no longer desperate, but purposeful. She wasn't fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for the human behind her, for the one who showed her she could be more. Serac howled, slamming its claw into the ground, sending a wave of red energy racing toward her. Varela lifted her hand, and the moon's shadows rose like a shield, forming a silver wall that absorbed the blast and shattered it into harmless sparks. Serac recoiled. "This is impossible," it hissed. "No monster has ever awakened this form." Varela's voice softened. "Because no monster ever had a reason. She glanced towards Elias, her eyes glowing warmly, until now. Elias stands again. Elias forced himself to his feet, leaning on his damaged staff. He staggered forward, stopping beside Varella's cowering form. "You don't have to fight alone," he said, breath trembling. Varella lowered her head, her silver shadows brushing against his shoulder like a gentle breeze. "Your presence is enough," she whispered. "It awakened me." Sirach snarled at the sight. "The human is your weakness, and I will tear that weakness from you." It charged again, faster, stronger, blades turning into red lightning. Elias braced himself even though he knew he was no match, but Varella moved before Sirach reached him. She struck the ground with her claw, sending a shock wave of pure silver light upward. The wave hit Sirach midair, flipping it backwards and slamming it into a jagged cliff wall. Rocks exploded, shadows rippled, and Sirach fell to one knee, shaking. The dark truth revealed. Sirach's form flickered, showing glimpses of an older shape beneath the blades and red fire. For the first time, Elias noticed something strange. Sirach's voice, it didn't sound like anger. It sounded like hurt. "Why do you care if she is loved?" Elias asked, stepping forward carefully. Sirach twitched, its jaw tightening. "Because I once asked the same question, and the universe answered with silence." Varella froze in shock. "You asked?" Sirach's body glowed with a painful, broken energy. "I protected our kind," it growled softly. "I begged for someone to protect me. No one came." Elias felt his chest tighten. Even monsters had stories. Even monsters had wounds. But Sirach shook violently, rejecting its own vulnerability. "No love for monsters," it roared. "That is the law." Varella stepped closer. "And who made that law?" Sirach's voice shook. "No one," it whispered. "The universe simply obeyed it." Varella spoke softly. "Not anymore." The final transformation. The silver light around Varella intensified, swirling around her like a newborn galaxy. Her presence pushed Sirach back with raw force. Elias had to shield his eyes from the brightness. Varella lifted her claws towards the sky, her shadow form stretching, growing, transforming. Her scars glowed with the brightness of stars forming from darkness. Sirach gasped in shock. "You are becoming a celestial shade," he whispered in terror. "A form no monster has taken in 1,000 ages." Varella lowered her glowing eyes towards Sirach. "My connection to him," she said, nodding to Elias, "awakened what you spent centuries trying to bury." Sirach tried to stand, but its legs shook. "You are breaking the balance," it growled weakly. "You are rewriting what monsters are." Varella shook her head, silver shadows rippling like wings behind her. "No," she whispered. "I am rewriting what we can be." Sirach trembled. "Then you will doom us all." Varella shook her head. "No, I will free us." The moon cracked beneath them, silver and red lights swirling into a massive storm overhead. Sirach prepared its final, desperate attack. Varella prepared to unleash her new celestial power. Elias prepared to make the choice that would decide both their fates. The final battle was coming, and only one truth would remain. A monster's future, a human's courage, and a love the galaxy could not understand.
The human who loved the monster. The sky above the dying moon cracked open like a broken mirror, silver and red storms colliding violently as Virella's celestial shade form awakened fully. Her shadow wings spread wide, each feather a glowing shard of starlight. The ground trembled under her as she rose higher, glowing brighter than any living creature had the right to glow. Elias watched with wide, stunned eyes. He had never imagined anything could be so powerful, so terrifying, so beautiful. Virella was no longer the lonely creature the galaxy feared. She was something ancient, something divine, something reborn. And Serac felt it. It crawled backward, its once fearsome form shaking violently as Virella hovered above. Her presence pressed on every rock, every shadow, every atom of the moon. "You cannot become this," Sarah gasped. "You were never meant to." Virella's voice echoed like a celestial bell, soft but unbreakable. "I was meant to be more than your chains." Serac tightened its claws around the cracked ground. "So you choose love?" it spat. "You choose the human over your own kind?" Virella lowered her head, her silver eyes glowing with warmth. "I choose freedom," she whispered, "and he is the one who showed it to me." Elias's chest tightened at her words. He had never expected to hold such meaning to a being older than civilizations. The final attack. Serac's desperation. Serac roared, its molten form peeling into sharper, deadlier blades. "Then I will end what should never have begun." It slammed both claws into the ground, releasing a massive pulse of red death energy that tore toward Virella and Elias like a living hurricane. The moon cracked like glass under the force, boulders flying into the air, dust turning into bright sparks. Elias braced himself, raising his broken staff, even though he knew it was useless. He whispered under his breath, "Virella, I'm here." Before the wave reached him, Virella dropped in front of him, her wings curved protectively around his body like a shield of stars. The red hurricane slammed into her with the force of a collapsing sun. The ground shattered, the sky screamed, the moon shook. But Virella did not move. Her wings burned with silver fire, absorbing the attack, breaking it piece by piece. Even as pain shot through her form like 1,000 needles, she kept her wings around Elias. Even as Serac unleashed more energy, she stayed between them. Elias reached out, placing his hand on her claw. "I'm not leaving you," he whispered. "I'm not afraid." Those words sent a new surge of strength through her, a strength she never knew she could possess, a strength no monster had ever achieved. The red storm died, fading into drifting red sparks. Virella slowly lowered her wings, her silver glow brighter than ever before. Serac stared, trembling. "This is wrong," it whispered. "This breaks every rule." Virella stepped closer. "No," she said softly, "it breaks your rules." Virella's power awakens fully. Her body began to glow so brightly that even Elias had to step back, shielding his eyes. Silver fire spiraled up her arms, across her wings and into the sky, forming a giant symbol of starlight behind her. Serac hissed and backed away. "You will doom yourself," it cried. "Celestial shade power was forbidden for a reason." Virella looked down at her glowing hands. "It was forbidden because you feared what love could create. You feared that monsters could become more than weapons." "Monsters cannot love!" Serac screamed. Virella's wings flared. "Then I am no monster," she answered. The final clash. Serac launched forward, its body turning into a spear of red lightning. Virella rose into the air, leaving a trail of silver stars behind her. They collided mid-sky, red against silver, death against hope. Every strike made the moon shake. Every slash lit the sky with violent colors. Elias watched from the cracked ground as the two beings fought like gods. But his eyes stayed locked on Virella, his heart pounding with every movement she made. She wasn't fighting as a monster or as a weapon. She was fighting like someone who had something precious to protect. Serac slashed across her wing, sending silver sparks flying. She roared, grabbing Serac's arm and slamming it into a crater. Serac rose again, broken but unending. "I will not fall to a creature of weakness," it hissed.
Varela lifted her claw, silver fire swirling around her. "Then you will fall to a creature of strength," she said, "a strength you will never understand." Serac stopped breathing for a moment. "What strength?" he whispered, trembling. Varela looked towards Elias. "That," she said softly, "is love." Her wings expanded fully, her entire body becoming a storm of silver energy. The ground beneath her cracked into glowing lines, and she unleashed a blast of celestial power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The silver storm swallowed Serac whole, engulfing its red flames, overpowering its blades, drowning its hatred. Serac screamed, its form twisting, breaking, dissolving, until there was nothing left but drifting red dust. The moon went silent, the sky dimmed, the light faded, and Virella slowly descended, her wings folding gently behind her. After the battle, a monster no more. Elias ran toward her, stumbling as he reached her side. "Virella!" he called. Are you alive?" Virella lowered her massive head, her silver glow softening as her shadows wrapped gently around him like a warm embrace. "I am alive," she whispered, "because of you." Elias touched her claw. "You saved me," he said. Varela looked at him with eyes full of emotion she could barely understand. "For the first time in thousands of years," she said softly, "I wanted to." The moon was falling apart around them, slowly crumbling from the destruction of the battle. But neither moved, neither cared, because in that moment they were no longer a monster and a human, no longer a curse and a survivor, no longer fear and loneliness. They were something that Galaxy had never seen before. Something powerful, something impossible, something beautiful. They were a bond, a connection, a promise. The ending, a new beginning. Elias looked up at his glowing face and asked softly, "What will you do now?" Varela looked across the stars. "For the first time," she said, "I am free to choose." She lowered her wings, inviting him closer, "And I choose to walk beside the one who showed me I am more than what the galaxy called me." Elias smiled. "Then let's go rewrite the universe," he said. Varela nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "and let the galaxy learn." She rose into the air, Elias holding on to the silver shadows that lifted him gently. A human and a former monster flying together into the stars. "Love," Varela said softly, "is never too monstrous." And the universe finally agreed.